you'll take the stance that it's immoral?
Yeah.
Sure. And this is with, like, adding suffering and taking away well-being, right?
Well, it's adding something. No, it's just trying to limit suffering, right? That's our
Oh, yeah.
criteria for if things are moral or not. It's just the
Wait,
limit of
trying to
suffering.
suffering and maximize well-being.
Oh, so yeah, so whichever action produces any suffering, right? We would try to avoid that action because that action would be considered immoral.
Wait, but, okay, so I thought you meant whichever action, like, makes the most amount of well-being.
I'm just going off the limit of suffering here. That's
Okay, so why don't we talk about so utilitarianism means
not utilitarianism.
Okay, so under humanism.
Mm-hmm.
So what creates? So okay, yeah, obviously it's going to create suffering, but that doesn't mean it's not going to create happiness. Like what?
That's not the point.
But the point is that it creates suffering, so therefore it's bad, even if it creates more happiness than suffering.
Which option has less suffering, right? So let's say if no matter what happens, if you are born, you will suffer something through your life. No matter what happens, it's inevitable.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean,
would you agree to that? If you were born, you will suffer anything in your life.
If we're gonna go under the belief that like happiness doesn't matter, then I don't really care to debate that under that. Like,
well, even if we let's consider happiness. Sure, let's consider happiness. Right. So, if we were to even consider happiness, you can be happy in your life. There's still some type of suffering, right?
Okay, but yeah, no. What I'm saying is under the ethical view that I hold, if something,
I can't hear you. What do you say?
I said under the meta-ethical view that I hold, whichever route causes the most amount of well-being should be the route we take. So if, let's say, this one route causes like a bit, or let's say it causes a bit of sadness, but a lot of happiness, then I think that's better than another route that causes no sadness, no sadness and no happiness.
But
right?
Hold on. Let's take this into a probability game, right? So like if we were to say that route 1 is life, and that's guaranteed for some suffering and some well-being, and route 2 is nothing, right? Route 2 is 100% guaranteed of life, of nothing. So wouldn't we go with route 2 because it's necessarily guaranteed that there will be no suffering, and we're trying to limit suffering?
Okay, but we're also trying to maximize well-being.
But there's no guarantee well-being will be maximized in life.
So
right,
you see the
hold on. Sorry, I was going to say this last
problem here.
You see the problem. Your position has the potential.
Well, Zeref, this is why under that, that's why I took a neutral stance, because yeah, it has the potential, but it also has the potential to be good. So it's like
that's what I'm saying. Your position is 50-50. It's a guessing game, and I think that a 50-50 guessing game is insufficient enough for it to warrant or justify that having kids is a moral action.
Well, I'm not saying it's 50-50. You have to warrant those numbers,
but necessarily 50-50 because it's potential that my life can be full of suffering, or it's potential my life can be full of well-being.
That doesn't mean it's a 50% chance. It could be a lower percentage.
It could, and that doesn't help.
Okay, and it's also irrelevant because you realize
it's very relevant.
Yeah, no. And the reason it's irrelevant is because, if you take the other option, then sure, you won't have any sadness, but you won't have any happiness either.
Exactly.
And if we're gonna have well-being, right? Then if let's say there's a 50% chance that you'll have a lot of well-being and no sadness, right?
Okay, hold on. Sorry, pause for a second. There will be some type of suffering. There necessarily needs to be some type of suffering, as well as there necessarily needs to be some type of well-being.
Okay, so Zeref. Are you saying that what's the 50% chance? Are you saying it's possible to have life with
I'm just saying it's potentially I could have more suffering than well-being. Potentially I could have more well-being than suffering. And due to that guessing game, I don't think that is sufficient enough to justify choosing that option over just limiting all suffering.
You should choose one.
I'd rather not suffer at all than have the chance to suffer and a chance to have well-being.
I'm not saying there's reason to choose one over the other in this debate. I'm just saying
we're choosing one or the other. In fact, the fact I'm saying is that there is a one or the other. There's a guessing game there. The fact that there is a guessing game there.
Hold up, and Zeref, Zeref, and I'm saying, okay, so what I'm saying is that you have two options here, right? I said that I don't know, right? You're trying to assert that we should go under this one thing, that we should go under the belief that that this, I mean, that like taking the potential for bad but also having good is worse than just having nothing at all, right? And I mean, I just don't think there's any way to justify that. Like you could just keep saying like, oh well, yeah, there's a potential. Like, yeah, I agree, there's a potential for this to be bad, but that doesn't necessarily mean that overall, as like as an overall thing, that doesn't mean it's necessarily worse than the
Because
other.
the reason why I'm saying that the potential makes it worse is because it's in conflict with an actual, right? So potentially it could be bad, worse, and that's going against actually it can never be bad. That's what I'm saying. That's the difference. It's a potential versus an actual. So that's why I'm saying it's necessarily insufficient to
Yeah, but it
choose
can
option
never.
one, where it's potentially good or bad, where there's a guessing game, versus
It can
option
never.
two, where it's necessarily nothing.
Okay,
It
but that
necessarily
does.
limits all suffering and limits
It,
all well-being.
okay,
There is no what is it
yeah,
called? There's no
it.
downside to option two, where there is a
Yeah,
potential downside to option one.
downside would be that it. Yeah, the downside would be that it could limit like happiness,
That's not
or
a
actually,
downside.
it would limit well-being. Because just because you have suffering doesn't mean you
Yeah, I'm
also have
saying
well.
limiting well-being isn't a downside when it promotes zero suffering.
Okay, why?
Because
Why is
think about it.
suffering?
Let's say you have a favorite game to play, right? But then your parents take it away.
Okay.
Now they're limiting your well-being. It's causing suffering. Therefore, it's bad. But
Okay, but you
in
still
in
had.
the in the case for option two, it is limiting well-being, but it doesn't promote any suffering, does it?
Well, wait, hold up. But in the case of option one, the person who played the game would have still had the well-being because they played the game. If somebody,
Hold on. Do you not get that's completely irrelevant. You don't get the analogy. I'm saying that the action of limiting well-being is not wrong unless it promotes suffering.
yeah,
So in option two, we're limiting well-being, yes, but we're also not promoting suffering. So it's okay. So that's what I'm saying. Just because of the potential of the promotion of suffering, that causes it to be automatically worse than option two.
yeah. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I just don't agree with it.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
I
that's
don't.
fine if you don't agree, but that's completely consistent.
Well, I mean, what I said. I mean, I'm just saying you have no way to prove
I
that one
just
is better.
did.
Well, you just explained why you think one has potential and one is like.
Yeah, I explained why the potential matters.
Okay, so again, that's
The potential matters is because, all right, would you agree to this? That limiting well-being when it does not promote suffering is an
okay. Hold up, Zeref. I'll put it this way.
okay.
Why don't we put it this way? What's the average amount of well-being we would get from going with option one, which is okay, so let's say that
I don't think we can quantify well-being. I don't think I can quantify the average amount of I don't know.
okay, so yeah, again, let's just take the average. So the average amount of well-being and suffering, so let's say 0 is like just the middle. That means that like you have the exact same amount of suffering and well-being, or you just have none at all.
You can't
Option one.
if you live, you have to have some suffering or some well-being. There's no none.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, let's say that option one is 0, right? Because there's no, I mean, option one, option one is being born, right?
Yes, option one is being born.
Okay. So yeah, going off of option one, we would have this, we like wouldn't know. So you could have the same amount of well-being and suffering. You could also have more well-being than suffering. You could also have more suffering than well-being. Like, you don't know. So let's just give an average and say 0 because we don't know, right? So that we could just take the median, right? That's 0. So both of these like routes have the same average,
No,
right?
they
So if
don't.
they're both.
You cannot have hold on. I'm saying that limiting well-being is justifiable when it does not promote suffering. So if I
Okay,
have
but
zero suffering, which is preferable than any suffering, that would be the beneficial action. So
I
option
just
two has zero suffering and zero well-being.
Okay,
Option
but
one,
what if
when you said 0, that just means equal, right?
I could explain the situation in which it's better? What about a
It's better.
situation
What is better?
where taking option 2 is better? A situation would be, let's say that you live and have more well-being than you do suffer. And that's still a 50% chance, right? Actually, I'll put it this way. Let's say there's a 1% chance that if you live, you'll have the exact same amount of well-being and suffering, okay? So let's say,
Sure.
actually, no. Let's say that's a 2% chance, okay? Just for the sake of this
Okay.
argument. Anyway, now let's say that it's a 49% chance that you have more suffering than well-being, right?
Okay.
Now let's say that it's a 49% chance that you have more well-being than suffering.
You understand that my argument still stands regardless if you have more suffering or more well-being if you live?
But it's still the same average. The average happiness of taking this side is 0. No negatives, no positives, just 0. And it's the same on both sides. Average.
Hold on. You're saying that if you live, you will never have any well-being. Is that what you mean? The average is 0 well-being if you live.
Yeah.
What?
The average is 0. Well, 0. Okay, so what I'm saying.
Hold on. Pause. So you're saying that if I'm alive, the average for well-being and suffering is nothing?
Well, no. What I mean is the ratio from well-being to suffering. We could say
the ratio is that they're equal.
Sure, we could say that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's irrelevant, bro.
As an average, we could say that they're equal, and for the first or for the second choice as well, they're also equal.
That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it is because that's the overall.
I'll explain why. I said regardless of if they're equal or not, or which one is ahead or not. My argument still stands because what I'm saying here is that just if suffering exists, right? And there's another option where it does not exist. The option where it does not is necessarily beneficial. And in the case, limiting well-being is justifiable if and only if it does not promote suffering. So in the example I gave you where the kid gets his video game taken away, that promotes suffering by limiting his well-being. So that action it could be justified by other things, but just that scenario is a wrong action because it promotes suffering. But let's take another action, right, where you were never born at all. Yes, it limits the potential well-being you had, but it does not promote any suffering. So that action is necessarily justified because
that doesn't mean
it does not promote any suffering. Because well-being is how we gauge the action's moral positive, and suffering is how we gauge an action's moral negative. So if I were to say an action has great suffering, the action is wrong. If the action has great well-being, the action is wrong. Limiting well-being is only wrong when it promotes suffering. So what I'm saying here is option 2 is necessarily beneficial because it does not promote any suffering and also limits well-being. So does that make sense? Oh wait, he's muted.
Motion detected at the back door.
Hold up, can you hear me? Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I can. Okay. Yeah, sorry, somebody came in, but yeah. Anyway, I feel like we're just kind of going in circles, but I'll just repeat one more time. What I'm saying is that, like, it kind of seems like under this view, right? It's just saying that whichever route maximizes the amount of well-being, whether that be, like, let's say you have, like, I guess if I wanted to quantify it, I could put it in points. Let's say you have like 60 points of well-being and 1 point of suffering, then you would have 59 points in total of well-being. And that's better than having like 0 points of well-being and 0 points of suffering. Just because you have less suffering doesn't mean that this route is better in total, because one side could still have more well-being and still override the other one. So what I'm just saying,
hold on, I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead.
So, one, the view, the ethical standards I was given is that we consider well-being and we consider suffering. So
Say that again.
if we take the action that, um, let's say, well-being outweighs the suffering of the action is moral. But if the suffering of the action outweighs the well-being, the action is wrong. So, and I said, limiting well-being, that is only wrong when it promotes suffering. So when you're not born, that limits your potential well-being, but it also does not promote any type of suffering. It also limits your potential suffering. So
Okay, but why
that
is
necessarily is greater than or
okay?
more beneficial than having some potential anything, regardless of the ratio is
Okay,
equal, regardless of if the well-being is higher or if the suffering is higher, regardless of any side, it's necessarily beneficial because there is no actual wrong in that action. There's no promotion of suffering, so it's necessarily not wrong based on these standards.
Zeref, you're just bro. I mean, you just keep saying that you keep saying that like promoting suffering promoting suffering over
I'm saying not promoting suffering.
not promoting suffering. So okay, so you're saying that
I'm saying I can
minimizing
limit your
well-being.
well-being as long as it does not
Yeah,
promote
no,
suffering.
hold up. Yeah, you're saying it's okay to minimize your well-being as long as it
Does not promote suffering.
as you don't have suffering. And I mean, I don't see you proving that. You're just kind of saying that, but like,
Do you understand? Okay, because it's like it's a rational justification. There doesn't need to be really anything empirical about it. Just think about how we define the terms, right? An action's morality is dependent on its suffering and well-being. If the well-being of an action outweighs the suffering, the action is right. If the suffering outweighs the well-being, the action is wrong. So what I'm saying here is the action of me limiting your suffering, limiting your well-being can be justified if it does not promote any suffering. Just based on how we use these terms, the standards we're given, it's necessarily the case. I'm just saying it's tautological, not tautological. It's rational. There doesn't really need to be any like observable, justified evidence. It's just how we define the terms. It all works logically. It's definitely justified because suffering is what we use to determine if an action is right or wrong. Well-being, is what we use to determine if an action is wrong. Well-being is what we use to determine if an action is right. I gave you an example of someone I'm gonna just say it for the recording at least. I gave him an example of limiting your well-being, right? The video game example, well-being was limited.
yeah,
And also, suffering was promoted, so the action was wrong. But in the
yeah.
example of never being born, well-being is also limited, but suffering was never promoted, so the action must necessarily be at least if it's not justified, at least needs to be what is it called, amoral, at least amoral.
Wait, Zeref, can we finish this a different time because I gotta go right now.
Okay, sure. Well, this is an 18-minute recording, so this is like at least 3 ads, so I'm definitely posting this.
Okay, sure.
I can make a part 2 or some shit.
I mean, sure. Do you think gotten better?
Yeah, I think you've gotten better. Yeah.